Happy Friday, everybody. Don't worry. I know it's brick outside. It's cold as can be. I was in Manhattan at 7 a.m. this morning. And man, it is wicked out there today. We're going to warm it up, though. We're going to keep you nice and hot for this weekend. Before I bring on my guests, the message of the week, you know I love to rope in any kind of martial arts message, any kind of like fight story, because entrepreneurs are fighters. We're feisty. We're scrappy. So this will prime the chassis for my guest today. He's got a wrestling background, and this is a great wrestling quote that I found earlier this morning. Great wrestlers are not great because of their technique. They are great because of their passion. Carry that over into your professional life, your work life. I've been hot on this idea lately. It's really been catching some traction on LinkedIn, which is where I first met my guest. With that, I'd like to welcome back to the show because this is his second time on the show. He did just one segment back in the spring. We did a roundtable and he jumped in. Jonaed Iqbal, Queens in the house. What's up, man? How are you today?
What's up? Thanks for having me, man. I love that quote, man. Passion.
Nice.
Good wrestlers, you see that passion in them, man. They're always grinding.
And it's funny because like wrestling for real, because how do you make money at wrestling?
Let me tell you, people who like wrestling, they do it just for the love, right? There's really no money, and then I guess now they can actually fight. So
yeah,
right.
And there's a couple ways. Like I had a friend of mine who's a wrestling photographer. So he was a wrestler and he became a photographer, and then he ended up doing wrestling photography, like flow grappling, contracts him and stuff like that, flying him all over the world. You know, he was in the Balkans a lot because they've got a big wrestling thing there, but all throughout Europe, India, Pakistan, like all these crazy places where there's a big wrestling culture still, in some parts of the States, these little pockets. So, he managed to make some money, and some guys, we talked about it a bit on the show, some guys get sponsorships and stuff like that, but I'm not sure even if they make as much as like, your top jiu-jitsu guys these days, like the prize money. I mean, they don't have those kind of, I guess if they transfer like to the submission grappling scene, possibly.
It's tough because it's like the top, unless you're like a gold medalist Olympian, right?
Yeah,
it's hard. There's really only a handful of people because there's just one thing. It's like who lost to Usain Bolt?
It's funny that you say that.
The name, right? But Usain Bolt is worth like whatever 50 or 100 million, and the next guy's worth like some change, right?
I saw this other one that was about gold medal. It was a wrestling quote that I found. I almost used it. I can't find it right now. It was talking about. I'll find it on the break, and we'll pick it back up. I also want to say I can't wear my cans today because I got cauliflower ear.
Oh man! So it started for you. Thankfully I never got it, and I know a guy who was a 10-time or he was a 5-time judo national champ, and he didn't have cauliflower ear. What he said he would do is warm up his ears. So he like before rolling, he just
that's the
like no one does that. Like it's one of those things you're like, what? Warm up your ears?
Yeah.
But then it's just one of those. So maybe try that.
Yeah, and I think judo guys maybe get it a little less because they're constantly like
no, but he was 5-time. 5-time national champ. So it's not just like I do judo. Yes. It's like I'm training. So
true.
That's the only thing I can go off.
I should have warmed up. It's funny because we've been grappling a lot lately. We've been doing a lot of no-gi as well.
Yeah,
and they started to hurt a little bit, but I was like, oh, it's fine. And I joined Henzo's last week because they're open. They're one of the only schools that's allowed to operate right now. And it was already bothering me, but like one class in, man, and it popped, and I was like, oh man. So we drained it yesterday, but it's still a little sensitive, like taking shirts on and off. I was like, Jonaed's gonna know a little something about that. You're gonna feel that. It's the ear bar, it's that hidden technique, the dark arts. The ear bar got me.
Oh man, that sucks.
So it's all right. My wife doesn't like it, but otherwise it's great. Before we hop into like the professional stuff, give us a little background into your wrestling experience.
So I mean, I didn't wrestle too long. I only wrestled the senior year of my high school. I was gonna wrestle college, but then I transferred out. And look, I would have wrestled earlier. I just didn't know wrestling was even a sport because we grew up in New York City, right? And then 10, 15 years ago, the grappling scene was very underground, right? Only a handful of gyms. The UFC was still, right, illegal in so many states, right? It wasn't legal in New York.
Yep.
And there's a program called Beat the Streets, and some billionaire from Princeton, he funded in so many new teams, and we were one of the teams. And one of my buddies, he was like, "Hey, we got a wrestling team, we got to join." And I was like, "Okay." And then thankfully, I had a coach that really focused on technique, and I had the passion, and it was cool. It was fun, and
That's
that was my
it. That's
introduction
it.
to the sport. And it was something that really taught me a lot of discipline. Just I really like just overall like the grind, the technique, right?
Mhm.
Like I remember like that was the only thing I looked forward to in school. Right, I was a good student, but I was like so tired. But that's the only
We'll
thing
get
I
to
look forward
that.
to. That's all I look forward to.
That's great. So my buddy that I was talking about, Justin Hawk, he worked for Beat the Streets. He was
Okay.
like, he was a big part of that for a while. And that's how he was doing that. He came to New York. He went to high school with my wife upstate, actually, and moved here right after school. He wrestled all through college at SUNY Binghamton.
Yeah.
And he moved here right after college. He lives in Queens as well. And he was pursuing like acting and a couple other things.
He grapples.
And
Does he still do jujitsu?
he doesn't do much jujitsu. He's more like freestyle wrestling.
Yeah.
And I think these days he does more photography, but he still trains some. But we talked a lot about like where the little pockets of like post-collegiate wrestling are.
Yeah.
And it's not everywhere, but you can certainly find it.
Yeah, you see it go all over the place.
Yeah, but he kind of got started with those guys, and they were the first people to bring him in to do like photography, and then it kind of blew up from there.
That's
so
awesome.
I watched him
It's always
kind of
cool
grow
when
with
people
them.
fall into their passions.
Yeah.
In ways they did not expect.
And that's a beautiful segue into like what you do now, which is help people fall into their passions, whether or not they have a degree. So tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing, like post wrestling career.
Yeah, so I help people without college degrees find jobs that pay well. And I'm the host of the No Degree podcast, where I interview people without college degrees and have them share their story. So I'm the founder of nodegree.com. And I felt it's the passion that keeps me going, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like you're an entrepreneur, right? And we're always tempted, we're always tempted on the other side, right? The grass is always green on the other side. You always think like, hey, I could get an easy job that pays well and get a steady paycheck and I don't have to worry about this. You always get that, but it's the passion that keeps you going, right? Like the passion, the creativity, just the difference, right? So we're made a different way, but yeah.
And the No Degree podcast, when and where does that air?
So it's nodegree.fm. That's how you can find it. But yeah, it's on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, a bunch of other platforms. I think Amazon just came out, so I got to submit mine to Amazon because that's like a new thing right now.
Yeah, they just reached out to me recently too, and we got added. We work through, I believe Sam will correct me if I'm wrong, Red Circle for distribution.
Okay.
And they connect us to a bunch of different things like that.
Nice.
But it was cool when Amazon like emailed me and they were like, "Hey, do you want to be like part of the Amazon?" Cool. I was like, "Yeah,
You're official,
yeah." Oh boy. And then the LinkedIn lives that you do, is that Sam said right? Yes, Red Circle. That's somehow kind of connected to the No Degree podcast. Tell me.
The LinkedIn Live is more free flow, whereas the No Degree like podcast is more structured. And I'll tell you, like people who I would love to have as a guest, but I can't have them on the podcast because they have a degree. I funnel them to the LinkedIn Live, so it's a win-win.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. So that's kind of how I do it. And I like doing something different. That's more like actual there. People ask questions and all that. And I have like a pretty strong crew on LinkedIn who's been supporting me from like day one.
Sure.
So it's for them. And you meet a lot of people because one thing about lives is I find people watch them who I never know. Like I met someone on Clubhouse who's like, yeah, I watch your LinkedIn lives. And it was like I never messaged a guy and all that. So it's cool. It's a cool experience.
And I want to talk about that a little bit more later in the show, just like the idea behind the live broadcast. We'll kind of break things up. What was I going to say? Did you tune into Nick's live the other day? I feel like I heard your name.
I've been so busy that I haven't been able to tune. Like I haven't even been able to comment on LinkedIn like that. Like usually I'm like a comment machine, not on my own posts. I'll comment, reply back, but on other people's posts. But now I've only been doing like 3 to 5. It's just been so busy.
I feel special because you like comment on my stuff.
I mean, look, let me tell you, man, you always like my Instagram posts. I'll make sure, and then
nice.
I'll try to spend a few minutes, and I always like try to support. Like,
well, you got a shout out on Nick's the live that I did with Nick Lozano the other day.
Thanks,
yeah,
man. He's a cool dude, man.
He's great. He's been on the show too. He did like a half hour, and it was all about like jujitsu, helps your personal life. And we just talked about jujitsu basically the whole time. It was great.
That's amazing.
And then like I connected with you through LinkedIn, and it's been very powerful for me as well. But like, you're really like, it's like a treasure chest for you. I feel like, how did that culminate? How did that all start?
I'll tell you. So first I was on Reddit, and I have a username, no degree, DOTCOM. So nodegree.com.
Yeah.
The thing about Reddit is no one looks at the username. So I was giving out all this helpful advice, and it didn't lead to any. Look, I like giving helpful advice, but it's like, look, I'm broke. I was broke. It needs to come return. Where it's like, look, if I make money, it's not about how much. I just need to survive, right? So then I was like, damn, people don't check the username on Reddit, right? So let me go spend this time where help and get benefit. Let me try Quora. Quora was good. It was okay, but it still wasn't like you don't connect with people on Quora, right? And the top answers, those people put in way too much work. Like, you see, it's like, so you got to have like, I don't even know how they do it. And then I was like, you know what? Let me try LinkedIn, right? And then because I had an Instagram account, but there was sometimes like the algorithm just ended up being tough. So I tried LinkedIn, and I was like, yo, this is good. Like, the organic reach is good. And I was like, people can at least see you. And I just liked it, just the demographics of the platform in terms of mostly workers, right? People above a certain age. You don't get people go on LinkedIn for a different reason. Like when you're on Instagram, you're competing with like beautiful women, celebrities, meme pages, and all that. It's like, who wants to go find a job? It's like, screw that. But LinkedIn, you're competing with accountants and financial advisors and all that stuff. So it's a lot easier, right? Especially when you get creative. And again, and I started, and I just ended up meeting such great people who taught me a lot, who helped me so much in my business. I met 3 of my business partners there.
Nice.
So it just led to a lot of good things. And, I meet people like you all the time.
Yeah, it's great. And when did you get started on there?
I started February 2019.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So I can't believe it's almost been 2 years.
Yeah.
Since I've been active.
I made my account
I made my account earlier. Like, I had an account since 2012, but then, just.
Oh, okay. So, I remember, especially through our wine business, I would get all these, invites to join LinkedIn since like 2012. I'll get these emails and be like, join me on my LinkedIn network. And I would always be like, what the hell is that? I'm like, I'm okay. I got, I wasn't really active on social media. I was definitely like boots in the street working things, and it would be all these like wine suppliers and people like that. I'm like, nah, I don't know about that. And then of course, finally like listening to Gary Vee, and he's like, LinkedIn's got that great organic,
LinkedIn, free organic.
Yeah.
People still don't realize it.
It's crazy.
Like I used to what is my last post? My last post, I think it's like 20K views or something.
Yeah.
And let me check. It's like still, this one, 24K views. This one's climbing. Like it's one of those that keep climbing.
Yeah. And LinkedIn is where I first realized that. So like I had Instagram and Facebook before, but when we started the radio show, which was September of 2019, it was like, all right, I really got to promote. I really got to get this out here. So I started the LinkedIn account specifically to promote the show and entrepreneurship and everything. And it was like kind of slow to start, but the first one that really like picked up some steam was LinkedIn. And I started to like, and then like I had one of those posts that had like 20,000 views or whatever. I was like, this is crazy. I'm just like
we're not like beautiful women or anything. So it's like, we got to work for it.
But it's funny because now it's TikTok. My TikTok is blowing up.
I gotta start on TikTok.
Man, it's crazy.
For me, it's like I didn't start, and it's more that you have to get in the frame of mind for a certain type. Like TikTok takes a little more effort. You gotta get into like I gotta do it a certain way because I can't like for LinkedIn. There's some things it could easily translate to like it, Instagram and all that stuff. But like TikTok, like I have all the meme ideas in my head, right? But now it's like I gotta do it.
It does. It takes some time to execute, but then you find your rhythm and you get going. And for me, I tried a bunch of different things. I was doing things related to the restaurant and the wine store and different stuff like that. And what really clicked was when the shutdown happened, and it was fitness and jujitsu, and it just went boom. Where I got a video right now from a couple of weeks ago. It's like 50,000 views, and like And I was like, it's funny. My 10-year-old pointed out, she was like, Dad, it took you over a year to get your first 1,000 followers. It only took you a week to get your second 1,000.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Crazy.
That's how it is.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to pick back up in just a minute, everybody. So stay tuned, hang tight. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. This week, we're zooming all the way, not just right around the corner, Queens, New York. Jonaed Iqbal here. He is the CEO of nodegree.com. And I found that gold medal quote that I wanted to catch at the beginning.
Nice. What is it?
Wrestling quote: gold medals aren't really made of gold. They're made of sweat, determination, and hard to find alloy called guts.
Yeah, and tears, man.
And tears. There are definitely some tears. And you pointed it out earlier. You were talking about passion, like, because wrestlers really don't make much money in wrestling. And so they're really just chasing their passion. And you connected it to entrepreneurship. And I wanted to kind of pick back up with that, where it's like when you set out on that kind of dark or gray path on your own, and there's nothing to catch you when you fall, and sometimes there's no money, sometimes there's pandemics, all these crazy things. I love 2020 because it was such like a gut check. It was just like, or like the chin. It was like 2020 gonna
2020 was like you got kneed in the balls, and the ref.
It was like you had Mighty Mouse on your back, right?
Yeah, you got kneed. Ref didn't see it. You still got to keep going, right?
Got to keep going, right? And it's really like the passion that if you don't have that, like, of course you need some business knowledge. There's some tools you have to have, but like what you cannot be without is passion, because you're gonna. But one of my favorite business quotes is most business fatalities are the result of suicide, not homicide. Yeah, meaning it wasn't like other things that knocked you up the mountain.
It killed itself from the inside.
Yeah, you took yourself out, and passion is one of those things. It's like a relationship, it's like if you're passionate, it'll last and flourish. It's going to morph, things change, but you just move with it because you love it. And I think that's so important. And especially like when you deal with people, that have the passion, but they're, the reluctant maybe to go down the college path, especially these days, boy. I mean, we talked about it in the spring, right? Colleges are under some pressure right now. Like, it's going to be Zoom class, but it's still $75,000 this semester, and we need your check by next Tuesday.
For room and board, right? They'll charge you for room and board too while they're at it.
Man, my kid's at home. He's doing Zoom from the bathroom. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So like your messages always speak to me because I'm a high school dropout as well. Now, somehow I ended up getting a master's degree, but it was a long meandering stream. But I dropped out of 2 high schools. I dropped out of one. And then I worked for like 6 months. And then I was like, all right, maybe I should go back to school. And I went back for a little while and then dropped out of another school. And then I just went back to work. And literally, I ended up going to school for music, which I don't know. You saw my mom chime in on Facebook comments yesterday. Did you see that? She was like, the school system failed you. I failed you. Like, you should have been in a gifted program. And I was like, nah, man, it's not about that, really.
Life ends up working out in its own way.
It does. But I ended up getting into music school, which is the passion I was chasing at the time in my late teens. And it was so weird because, I got into a 4-year university with just a GED and like decent SAT scores. And this was like 1996. Yeah. So things were a little different back then, I think.
You can still get in with just a GED. And look, the thing is that
you can still
if you have good SAT scores, because again, it kind of shows that you can, like, I remember when I went to my college, I wanted to get out of the first level calculus, or I want to get out of pre-calculus, because in high school I took pre-calculus my junior year, and then calculus, my AP calculus my senior year. I did terrible on the AP test, but then they make you take calc. They wanted to put me in pre-cal because I was like a transfer. I was like, look, I'm gonna go 2 years back. They're like, no, high school is different. And my high school, I actually worked harder in high school than most college classes because I went to like a specialized high school. And then when I went, and then I showed my SAT score, they put me in calc. And then I aced that class too, because it was like, oh, I remember this stuff. Like, I didn't do as well in high school because it was like I was tired senior, but you're learning things a second time. It's like, oh wow, why didn't I get this? And I aced it.
Where'd you go to high school at? What school?
I went to Bronx Science.
Gotcha.
So I hate the subway system. I spent too much time on the subway, man.
Yeah, we just got a car. We haven't had a car in like 15 years. Dude, we just got a car.
And like parking?
In Windsor Terrace, where we're at, there's decent street parking.
Good.
Every now and then you got to romp around, but it's great because like we're driving into Henzo's 7 a.m. class, and you could park on 8th Ave. And
people don't realize that as long as you don't avoid the rush hours and the other areas, it's just so easy.
It's a dream, bro. It's a dream.
I'm telling you, like, after training, there's nothing worse than sitting on the train. I don't know. Training, you just want to go in your car, go home, and relax.
you want to get that acai,
Yeah, yeah.
and you want to go.
Yeah.
For sure. So my wife is she's a math a math teacher and like kind of like a math director at ICE, Institute for Collaborative Education. It's in the old Stuyvesant High building. So we have this conversation all the time, and it's really funny now. Like we can talk about this. You know, now they're trying to make these like kind of quasi calc classes that look good on the kid's resume, but it's not calc. And she's like, they can't do basic algebra. Why are you trying to give them like this badge that like said like I kind of did calc, so they can get into like a good school? Like it's all about the school, and it's just like phony education. It really sucks to hear them talking about it. It is.
I see when you do that, they get to a real calc class. And see, the thing is, let me tell you, college, they got like 2 or 3 exams. So you do bad in one, you're done for the semester, right? That's it. The most you can get is a B if you mess up the first. So it's like they really gotta make sure that you just can't. You know, it's just a complex issue because a lot of times the teachers are doing everything they can, but a lot of times it's for the parents, so the parents could feel better about the. And you know,
it's a deep rabbit hole. And again, like to tie back in like grappling arts. It's like there's no lying.
Yeah, you
on
can't
the mat.
get like you know, like if you get like a fake belt, right? Let's say like a belt you don't deserve, you go. People like they'll feel you right away.
You're gonna find out quick, and you could talk a bunch of smack like off the mat, and as soon as you slap hands, it's like, were you serious? Are you legit? Can you back it up? And I just love that it's just like completely brutally honest, and you can't fudge anything, man. You can't pull one over on anybody. It's just a fascinating part of grappling that I love.
Same here. I that's the one thing. It's like it's the equalizer. Like let's go settle on the mat.
Yes. So you actually have a degree.
Yeah.
And where's your
master's degree? Unfortunately,
it's like somebody I say it with such disdain. I'm like, yeah, I have a master's degree.
No, but you know what? I do like what I learned, and I do find it, even though I don't use it for traditional things, it was good to sort of get the experience to know. Because a lot of times what happens is a lot of people who are like not pro college, it's typically the other extreme where they didn't go to college, and then people say, oh, they're that way because they couldn't hack it. And it's like, look, I could hack it. I did extremely well. I went to like an Ivy League, but I also realized it's not for everyone. I realized like who wins, who doesn't win. Because you know, when I went to like Columbia for my master's, it was full of a lot of rich kids. A lot of the kids are wealthy, right? They grew up with tutors, right? They're obviously smart and they work hard, but they also have a good parental support system. That the majority of the kids who go to those type of schools are wealthy in the first place, right? They have a support system, right? They don't deal with other issues that we don't necessarily have to deal with, right? If you have a parent pass away, you have all these other factors, you're just less likely to go just because you have other things to worry about.
Yep, exactly. And it's funny because like, you know, speaking specifically about like some of these New York City schools, where it's like most of the kids that come up in the New York City school system it's not available. It's it's just not happening. It's not in the cards. You said something that kind of triggered my thought process, and then it just slipped away. I'm still kind of like dreamy.
The rich kids going to school?
No, I don't care about them. I'm still kind of dreamy from my morning no-gi class. It was so awesome and cerebral, man. The other thing I love about grappling arts is like, especially something like jujitsu, it's like very cerebral. So it looks kind of like maybe brutal from the outside, but at the inside, it's like it's human chess, and it's very strategic. It is. And the class we had today, man, was just like the guy was he didn't even teach a technique. He was just teaching concept, and like my wheels were just turning, and we came out, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm just like,
it's good when you understand the concept. You're like, oh, that makes sense.
And it sucks when you don't.
You know what concept that my coach taught me in wrestling was that wrestling is all circles. Like all the moves, and you know, same thing grappling. It's all circles. Like a lot of things, it's like circular.
The spiral.
You know, you keep circling. You know, you don't go straight on. You go in circles.
Yes. Yeah. And that was my journey, you know, like I think I turned 21 my freshman year of college.
Yeah.
So I was like really circling. And the same, I did really well in school. And like, for me, I also, you know, I have a degree. I got my degree, my master's in music in 2004. And I did well. Like I was supporting myself in the industry, and things were going well. The funny part about it, and we talked about this the last time you were on, being in the food industry all this time, we used to get these kids from like the Culinary Institute upstate as interns and stuff. And I worked for this one chef that had graduated from there like in the 90s. Now back then, you couldn't get into the Culinary Institute and most schools like that unless you had 2 years of prior experience. So if you were 18 applying, you had to have worked in high school for 2 years at like a pizza place or an ice cream shop, or like you had to have worked in the industry for a minimum of 2 years for them to even consider your application. They eradicated that at some point. And it's funny because we were getting these 20-year-old kids that had an associate's in culinary arts, like little rich kids, never really worked like some of the resort areas that I did as a kid, where you're just like working 18-hour days and people are spitting at you and there's no air conditioning, and they would come in and he would say, if they're no good, just throw them out. And man, I would throw each one of them out like by lunch.
You need that experience. I mean, look, I worked as a waiter for 3 days. And I worked 27 hours.
Yeah.
And look, the work wasn't bad, but I got paid like $81.
Right.
And my friends just laughed at me. They didn't pay like the first day because it was like training, and my friends laughed at me. They're like, "Man, you made like $3. What is that?" Man? That was nothing.
But not for nothing. In New York City, you can easily knock down like $50 an hour as a server. Like if you stick with it and get good, like you could walk with some real bread.
Yeah.
One of my early restaurant gigs in Lower Manhattan, I made so much money, and it was just cash in hand back then. It was like 15 years ago. It was ridiculous. I worked 3 days a week. I worked 3 nights a week, and I was just like, I had cash, man, and I could do whatever I wanted. We had a baby, so I took care of the baby a lot. But that was my only hindrance. That was the only reason I couldn't do whatever I wanted. It was good though, because I probably would have blown it off. Yeah. All right, we're gonna take another break. All right, hang tight, everybody. We'll be back in just a few. Woo woo woo. Can I get a Ric Flair? Woo! Woo! Welcome back, everybody. It's funny, Nick Lozano is like my LinkedIn Ric Flair gift guy, because you can only do it from like an Android or something else, and I never have it, so I put him in the comments, and he always drops me a Ric Flair. Oh, it's so funny. Again, everybody, welcome back. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. We're zooming to Queens, New York. We're talking to Jonaed Iqbal. He is the CEO of nodegree.com. And we've been talking about a number of things, grappling, but also, the kind of circular pattern life can take in grappling, but also professionally, especially if you don't have a degree or you didn't get a degree. And then I want to dig into like what some of the options are. So like for me, I was saying I dropped out of school. I dropped out of 2 high schools. It wasn't because I was stupid. It was, I was just bored. It's funny. I've had 2 conversations. Well, I had one conversation with a gentleman, one of my mentors, recently, just in the last couple of days, and we were talking about this, where he and I both like really struggled in school. We weren't like the best students. He opened his first restaurant at like 24, I think. And now he's franchised, and he's just like, nice. he's doing so many really great things. And then his daughter too, he's got 3, but his middle daughter was like really not doing great in school either. And they moved her a few different schools. She ended up getting into college, and she ended up studying business. And then it really clicked. Yeah. And her first year out of school, she opened her own business, and she profited like $120,000 in her first year. That's serious. Just like on her own. Like a couple of the business classes helped, but the rest of it was just like, whatever, man. Yeah. And I was listening to, with all this stuff with Reddit and GameStop, Gary Vee was interviewed on something yesterday, MSNBC or something like that, just a short thing. And he was talking about how, like, when we were coming up, I'm the same age as him, and it's like, I remember going to my guidance counselor in high school, and like, they were like, yeah, maybe you should think about vocational school. And I was like, that's kind of a dick thing to say. Like, you want me to be a mechanic? Just because I don't want to go to school and I don't want to follow like the status quo. The resources weren't there, where now there's a lot more. I think there's a lot more support in this idea of like, I'm going to do things, I figured it out on my own. Fortunately, it took a while, but what are some of the things you suggest to people these days? Like if someone comes to you and they're like, whether it's a parent, it's like Billy doesn't want to go to school, or whether Billy comes to you and he's like, Jonaed, I don't want to go to school. Like, what can I do? What are some of the things that you advise? I mean, I know when the last time you came on, I just posted a little clip, and your one thing was like, do your research, like really know what you're getting into. What else do you tell people in this situation?
be self-aware, because what happens is, and I advise a lot of my clients and people who talk to me, there's Gallup has a strength, the polls. Gallup
Mhm.
has a strengths finder test, and you take a test, you answer a bunch of questions. It's like 20 minutes long, and you get like five of your top strengths, right? And these strengths are like, that's how you're wired, right? There are some people who are like, look, they're like, hey, I couldn't do business. I want something stable, right? And
Mhm.
then there's some who's like, I can't work for someone else. I need to be my own boss. So you end up finding your top 5 skills, and then from those skills, you need to figure out which careers are how the which careers sort of work with those skills. Like some people like thinking, some people like working with others, some people like just being creative, some people just like repetition. And the thing is, it's different for everybody. So I think you got to do that, and you got to be self-aware, because oftentimes people choose careers. It's like, oh, someone told me to become an accountant, and then they do the job, and it has nothing to do with their strengths, right? And then they end up moving in different routes. So I think once you figure out your strengths, now you can be more strategic when you're going into the role that you can sort of. So that's kind of what I tell people. It's like, I don't say, oh, get into tech or get into this,
Yeah.
because a lot of people do that. And what happens is people just get in, they may be good at the career, but they don't like it. They don't have the passion
Mhm.
for it. It's not aligned with their strengths, and they just end up burning out, right? It's just like,
Yeah.
you can't tell everyone to do the same thing. So I tell them to do that and just explore, talk to people.
And people come to me about it, and I'm like, you have to be able to make mistakes and be able to rebound from it, because it's hard. Like with somebody young to like answer those questions honestly, like
Nobody
especially
knows.
if you have, like, I could answer it now, but I'm like in my mid 40s, like finally I could answer that. I had to get like knocked around a lot. And that's the thing, you have this ideal version of yourself, and you can answer those questions that way. But then once you get in and you start to get the grind to tie back into wrestling, you're getting beat down, man. And you're like, I don't know. Like these guys, I don't remember. I listened to like a good portion of the interview you did with Demetrius Johnson, but it's like, guys that are like, I want to be a fighter, and they're like, follow the allure of it. And it's like, you get in there and you're like, wait, I just get my ass kicked every day.
And it's funny. He didn't even, he was just like, look, it was just something I did and I was good at, and I was just really freaking good at. And he was like, he always had a backup plan and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
he seems like a really smart guy.
Dude, he's a real nice guy. Let me tell you. I asked him for like a quote, right? I was like, dude, he answered me back in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
He with the quote. I thought he's not like, yes, he was like, hey, he's a great podcaster, XYZ. He's a cool guy, man.
Yeah. I dug him. And do you know Bo Templin? Are you familiar with him?
I've heard of that name.
He's a young broadcaster. He's working with 1:37 p.m. right now.
Okay.
It's funny, he puts out these tweets and he says they're like kind of cryptic, and he'll show like a screenshot of the message from the person that's going to come on. The guy, he said something and then he just signed the email D. And he goes, who do you think it is, man? And I immediately, I was good, because it was like right after watching your show, I was like, I wanted to say, I was going to put a Mighty Mouse gif in there, and I didn't. I hesitated, and that's who it was.
It was, okay.
It was him. But he just put it out. It was like maybe a month ago. It's short too. It's like 20 minutes, but it's really good, man.
Yeah,
it's really good. You should check it out.
He's a very intelligent guy.
It's funny. Some of these dudes, like, who else was really impressive was Anthony Pettis.
Anthony Pettis seems smart. I met him in person. I got a picture with him. He's a cool guy.
Like business savvy, man. Like some of these guys,
you gotta be like, you see someone like, I think you see Khabib, GSP, like Khabib's like going to college. Over there. He's like, taking classes, and you see GSP with the paleontology, and his, they're so on. You think they're fighters, but to be a good fighter, man, it's a chess game where you bleed. Right.
Yes.
And, and you can make the right move. You can make the right move and checkmate the guy, and the guy just has an iron chin. Right. So it's so many more factors.
It's funny you say that. My daughter was sitting in the restaurant last night. She was just like here helping out with something, and there was some downtime. And we have this little mini chessboard here, and nobody can sit inside right now, so she's sitting inside by herself. She just starts playing chess. She's into it. And one of our neighbors came in to pick up some food, and she was like, oh, you like chess? And they started talking. She was like, my dad, this lady, she's probably in her 60s. So her dad, I don't even know if he's alive anymore. This guy's, he's probably like, he would have been 90 or something. She was like, he was an avid chess player. And it was really amazing to watch. She said, but he had a bad temper, and you could always tell when he lost, because he would like throw the table and like take a swing at the guy. And I was like, bloody chess, man. That's interesting. The wrong sport.
He should have been the UFC.
Should have been a UFC fighter. Yeah, they didn't have that back then. But You know, it's interesting how some of those guys, again, guys that have no degree a lot of times, and a lot of them get into the business aspect and don't do like necessarily so well, but there's a few of them that just really get it.
Yeah.
You know, they just really like understand it. And I love to hear those guys talk. I mean, some of these guys open
Like George
schools.
Foreman with the grill.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
With the grill,
Talk about,
right? Like,
you know, personal brand.
You ever hear him talk? He's a very sharp guy.
Yeah. What's it called? Some of these guys end up opening schools. Yeah. And it's funny because Henzo was just on an interview the other day I was listening to. It was him and Matt Serra. And he was like, man, some of these guys are like great fighters and they open schools and they just like, they know shit about business.
Yeah.
And they just fail because they're like really good, like executing on the thing and maybe like good at like attracting people to them. But then when it comes to the business, when it comes to the business component, they really blow it, and it's unfortunate. So, like,
you're in the
how do we help?
Business. Yeah, you're in the restaurant business. You know, just because you're a good cook does not mean you can run a restaurant.
Or like music is the same way, man. Just because you're a good, you're a good drummer, doesn't mean you're gonna be great at teaching or be successful at financial management. Because you gotta file your own taxes as a freelancer and all that mess. It's crazy. But
how do you help these guys?
Yeah, how do you help somebody like that that's like established already, that like has money and they're really like in the weeds, man. They don't know what to do.
What they like, honestly, they need to find coaches, like business coaches. Because I know, like I've spoken to people, and the ones that hire coaches and they surround themselves with good people, like they're the ones who, I know GSP has like, he surrounds himself with great people who like.
Well, Fear Sahabi is like he's on another level.
So it's like you have to, because it's like, look, you can't be good at everything, and same thing with the gym. You can't just hire your buddies and all that stuff, right? You can't hire your buddy who knocks everyone out because he's a great fighter, right? I've heard of that, right? You've heard of schools where it's like there's straight up guys who just like bully other people in the gym, and that causes people not to come back, and right, all this stuff. Like it caused. I remember one time at my gym. One guy, like this guy was a college wrestler, dude. He went hard. He goes hard on everybody. Yeah. Right? Like this guy was like, dude, he just like an Energizer bunny. Like he wasn't like the strongest guy, but this guy come at you nonstop. Yeah. And then he did it like there was a girl in the class, and dude, he wrestled her like he was like a guy. I felt bad. She never came back. So it's like I think he stopped coming, but I think they addressed that. But it's like those things really make a difference whether people come back or not.
I like that idea. I've never really worked with coaches before. I had some mentors, but it was just like de facto, like it just happened, in life. But I'm actually like kind of co-working with a few people right now, and it's been amazing. It's like it's really helping me. One of my friends, she's been on the show a couple times. She coaches, and one of the best things she ever said on the show, like I asked her, the first time she came on, I was like, you got the final remark. What do you want to tell everybody? And she was just like, finding an accountability partner. So like, it doesn't necessarily have to be you don't have to think about it like this is my coach. They're telling me what to do. More so like, this is a person that I can shoot ideas off of. Just like your favorite training partner.
They guide you.
But it's just like your favorite training partner where you're like, man, I want to try this thing out. We work a little bit together where it's not like fully live. So like, if I fuck up, you don't smash me. Like, I just want to vet this process. And she was like, that's really like the big thing. It's like, get that person, because, another thing I kind of discredited at first was imposter syndrome. And I was like, man, I'm a confident dude. I ain't got that. But it's funny. It shows up in these little ways. And I'm like, oh, like that's what it is. And it's been pointed out a couple of times. And now it's my adversary. And I'm like, I will find you. I will get you. I will squash you every time I see you. Just, it's just like, you just got to go for it and like, forget. Like, I'm not afraid of that many things, but every now and then, just like you have these subconscious things that make you say like, oh, no, that's not a good idea. And it's like, how do you know? Like, have you done it? Have you tried it? How do you know? Like I have to, this is my internal dialogue. I'm this fight with myself in my own head. It's a trip. And then the coaching thing is cool. Like, because the spectrum is pretty wide. I mean, it's not like we can all go to Tony Robbins, right?
Yeah.
But like, you can find some cool people that are like charging, like I'm working on it right now, setting up a coaching, just like a coaching component of all my businesses. And like, I'm talking like $200, like I just want to do it for fun and like monetize it a little bit so I'm not losing money on it. But you can find like some good people right now.
I mean, sometimes you only need like an hour or two. They tell you like, hey, exactly, this is what you're missing. This is what you need to do. Or this is the book you need to read.
Yeah, Clubhouse is kind of being I've been doing a few lives a week, and there's been some really great traction there. How much time have you spent on it so far?
I think the first few weeks, man, I was up to like 6 a.m. and then now
Of course you were.
I haven't touched it as much. I've been sort of binge watching like Netflix shows and stuff.
Okay.
I haven't done that in years, so it's like one of those. And then once I get my binge out, I'm done. But yeah, no, I mean, am I going? I think I'm going Saturday at 7 p.m. on Clubhouse.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So just
awesome.
I started the No Degree Club on Clubhouse.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's a good move. That's a really good move.
Just kind of really talking to people, and I've helped some people with their resumes. Like one girl, I helped her. She was. It's funny. She was gonna switch careers.
Yeah.
Like she was like, "Hey, I tapped out. I'm not gonna make more." I was like, "No. Fix up your resume. Listen to me. Do these things." And then she got an interview at Microsoft, second round. Oh. I mean, she had an internal referral, but she got, the referral passed it on, and she got the interview the next day. So I was like, look, trust me, you're not maxing out your salary. Because I see a lot of people, it's like small things, they think, hey, I'm not, it's like, look, make these adjustments and you're so much, same thing with fighting, right? Small adjustments, right? Change fights.
Inches. That was the thing today the guy was talking about. He was like, when you're working with high level people, it's like centimeters, inches, and that's the big difference.
Yeah, awesome. It's harder to work with high level people because you gotta, like, when I'm doing interview prep or resumes for high level people, I gotta go like deep. I gotta go deep. Like, hey, this is the thing that's gonna give you that extra edge.
Yeah, nice. Let's take one last break, and then I want to finish up talking about like that process in the live, just like the live stream and what value is in that these days. All right, everybody. So hang tight. We'll be right back. Last round coming up. Ding, 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 ding. All right, everybody. Last round. Ding, ding, ding. Welcoming back my guy, Jonaed Iqbal from Queens, New York. This segment here, we're going to focus on the idea of the live stream. This was also a post from LinkedIn that I saw just a couple of weeks ago. It's really triggered me. We actually did a Clubhouse room on it on Monday night, and just specifically talking about live streaming. And it was a great room, man. I think only like 15 or 20 people came through, but that was like way more than our previous weeks of doing this. But the what came out of that, like we helped a couple business owners figure out like how to tweak what they were doing and their own like self-promotion, and just like these two guys left the room like, oh my God, I'm so pumped, I'm so charged, I'm gonna go get it. And then when they entered, they were like, I don't know what to do. So it was really fascinating and fantastic to get that. But I was kind of triggered by this LinkedIn post by Stephen G. Pope, and he starts with, have you thought about live streaming? In a year or two, it'll be a lot bigger than it is today. Every major platform supports it now. And on new platforms, it's assumed to be there. In a world where a lot of people are just thinking about going on video, new trends are pushing live streaming. It's funny. It's like live streaming is becoming what video was like 2 or 3 years ago. And people were really kind of slow to get on that. And it's like, oh man, you got to have this like edited, polished thing. I need a video editor and all. Now it's like live stream, and everybody's like, either like, I don't have the right gear, or they're like, I'm nervous getting in front of the camera. And when I read that, I was like, I felt it was like so blessed that I started this, like a year and a half ago. And I feel like really poised. Like you could throw the live on at any time on me right now. And I'm just like, I just go, and I'm just like in the mode. So talk about your experiences with that, and like, what kind of value do you see in live? Because you go live a lot.
Well, not as much anymore, just because I'm busy.
Well,
but
I'd
like to look.
There was a period where you were.
Yeah, there was a period I was doing a lot. I'm going live actually tonight, Friday, at 8 p.m. But the value of live streaming, what a lot of people who don't understand live streaming, they're like, why would you watch someone live? Like, but the value in live streaming comes from community. It comes from interaction. That's what a lot of people don't get. Like, I see some people, they want to share like pre-recorded things and all that stuff, but it's like, that's not what live streaming is. They'd watch a YouTube video, right? Live streaming is about interaction with the host, getting that thing, interaction with the other people in the chat, kind of being there, and just kind of hanging out. That's what live streaming is. And just that community, just supporting someone that and that's how people need to view live streaming. It's because look, most people are not big enough that they'll get like lots of viewers and all that. And it's about just that rawness, because we're so used to edited things where things are very rehearsed and all that. Live streaming is like, it's not that. It's just like it's that person, right? They have to show up. They can't, because anybody can be anyone in an edited video. I've seen people, they're just crazy people on edit, not crazy, but just very different from who they are. And like I go to a lot of networking events, right? and a lot of LinkedIn specific on LinkedIn locals when you used to be open.
Right.
And one of the best compliments I got is like, you're exactly who you are, like who I
Mhm.
expected you to be. And that, I think that's what live streaming is like. It really shows who you are.
Yeah. Again, tying it back into wrestling, it's like there's no lying in live stream. It's like you slap hands and it's just like, here we go. And I mean, I never use a script or anything. I don't write down. The only thing I look up is like the message of the week. Like, what's that going to be? And even that I mess up sometimes, but
It's all right.
it happens. Yeah. But like, I just love that it's like brutally honest. And like you were saying, I really agree in that terms of like community building. I would rather have like, you know, it could be, you can pick the number. I don't care. It could be 20 people. It could be 100 people. It could be 200 people that are engaged and supporting each other than like thousands that are doing nothing, who are doing absolutely nothing. Like that offers nothing to anybody. You know, nobody gains that way. And I really love that it builds that community. But I feel like people really enjoy seeing that real version, and they can connect to it. Like you really connect to people where when you put that polished thing out, people are like, oh man, my life ain't like that. You know, like that Instagram kind of vibe, like, look at me, you know, it's like, my life ain't like that. Like, you know, they might like it. They might be like, oh, that's cool. But deep inside, they're like, I'm never going to be that. Where when they see me get up and like make an ass out of myself and like mess up my words and like the audio cuts in and out, and it's like, all right, I might even be better than this guy. He didn't even graduate high school. So I like that rawness of it and that realness. That I think that's a good way to like bring people in. But I think this month between this show, the show I do with my brother, the other shows I've been on that I've been invited on, and then Clubhouse, I'm looking at like 20 live streams this month that I did.
That's respect, man.
I'm like,
that's a lot.
Nick was funny. He like wrote me after the show, and because I had to come off of his show because the restaurant was open, and it was like, it's time to go, man. And he's like, all right, we were done like an hour, and he just wrote me back. He's like, it's crazy. Like you don't have staff, and you have to do all this, and you do these live streams. And I was like, man, I can't wait for staff to come back. I'll just be live all the time, like walking around with the camera guy, and you know, just getting it in. I'm one of those people that's comfortable. You just turn the camera on and I'm like super comfortable. It doesn't bother me at all. But like now I'm starting to see the value in it, where I feel like the first year and a half, I was just cutting teeth with it. You need to go to sleep, man. I know you were doing the LinkedIn insomnia. I love that name, LinkedIn insomnia. You were up all night live streaming, or you were Netflixing?
No, not last night. Last night I think just watching YouTube videos.
So how many, we just have a couple more minutes. How many live streams do you think you're doing right now? And what's your goal for this year as far as that goes?
You know, I'm going to tell you something. I don't really have goals in the traditional sense. And I'll tell you why. I have the next thing I want to accomplish, and I'll typically do a short time frame, 1 to 3 months.
Yeah.
Because it's like past that, it's just so abstract.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like saying, hey, I want to lose 50 pounds this year. I'd rather do, hey, I'll lose 5 pounds in a month. And then did I hit it? Did I go from there? Realistic? Yeah. And then, you know, then you go, what happens is you go to like month 11 and you're like, damn, I only lost 2 pounds. I got like 48 more to go. So me, it's just the big, I want to get a lot of content published on nodegree.com, like how to prepare for an interview, 10 questions, all that stuff. So that's really the goal, and increase the SEO to get more website traffic. Because once I get more website traffic, it just leads to everything else. That's really the goal. And I ideally, I'd like to be in a position where I could live stream a lot more, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think that's more like a next year goal.
Okay, cool. Very cool. Yeah. Where can people find out about you or get in contact with you if they want to learn more?
Look me up on LinkedIn, Jonaed, Jonaed. You type that in, you'll find me. Check out nodegree.com and check out the No Degree podcast on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all the fun stuff.
Awesome. I'll drop that in the comments of the Facebook live, so people will be able to see it there and look you up if they have any questions. Awesome, man. Well, we got to wrap this one up. You got the final quote. What you want to tell everybody?
So I'm going to go back to a quote, wrestling camp. Yeah, it was Jay Robinson wrestling camp. He was the head coach of the Minnesota wrestling team college. Discipline is doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. And that's like one quote that like I love that. I ask myself, do I want to do it? Do I want to do it? I say no. Do I want to do it now? No. Okay, I got to do it. Right.
Gotta do it.
A lot of times that applies to like working out and a lot of things. And
everything.
Like
that phone call you don't want to make. That's like in martial arts, they say the thing you want to do least is probably the thing you need to do the most.
Yeah.
And so like it could be training, but it also could be like that business call you don't want to make. It's going to suck, but you should just do it. That's awesome, man. Really great. Great way to wrap it up. Well, thank you so much for coming on again. We'll do it again. I'd love to talk about SEO. I love that. That's one of my closet SEO guy.
I'm like a middle of the tier. I know enough to know what I don't know and how powerful it is, but not enough to like be an expert. Still a really
dude, we'll do an SEO show with my buddy Craig. That'd be great. Hey, you love down. Craig.
I'm down.
Awesome, man. Cool. We gotta hop off. There's another show coming up. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have an awesome weekend. Peace out.